Tonight, no reprieve for Christmas. More hot, windy fire conditions expected for WA. The UN Security Council agrees to boost aid into Gaza with a watered-down resolution aiming to win US support. Record barra catch in the top end as hopes labelling changes could boost the industry. And lighting up the desert, the Christmas competition taking over Santa Teresa. Good evening, Kyle Dowling with ABC News. Hot and dry conditions have again kept Western Australian fire crews on high alert as they deal with several bushfires across the state. A number of properties were lost or badly damaged in two fires, which threatened lives and homes on the outskirts of Perth.
From a backyard to charred bushland, the fire came within metres of Ben van Viersen's property in North Dandalup, south of Perth.
If that had taken, could have lost the tank.
He wasn't there, but his home was saved after a tradie turned on the sprinklers.
Scared and relieved at the same time because I got away with it, and hopefully it's 3 or 4 years before it can ever happen again. And I won't let it happen again because I'm going to put a big break around the house.
The bushfire tore through the countryside at more than 2 kilometres an hour at its peak on Friday. 2 unoccupied properties on a mine site were destroyed and many other homes were threatened.
Only a couple of metres away from those properties, and again it's the great work of the crews and perhaps a little bit of preparedness from those homeowners, as well as a little bit of luck that's probably saved the day.
Shane Rowley's family rushed in to save horses on nearby farms.
You do what you have to do. It's as simple as that. They're no heroes. They're just doing what everyone else was doing.
A separate fire in Parkerville destroyed 3 homes on Thursday. The threat is far from over, with hot conditions forecast over the next 2 days, and fire authorities again urging residents to make sure they have a bushfire plan in place. Keysbrook resident Sue Mead knew exactly what to do.
This is the set of sprinklers that I had on yesterday in case the fire changed.
Come on, girls. Come on, darlings.
The former volunteer firefighter, who has lived in the area all her life, also has a firefighting unit with a tank and pump ready to go.
I would stay and defend because I've got 4 pet sheep that are my life. If it's ridiculous to stay, I'll go, but I'll try and take my pet sheep with me.
Not everyone is as prepared as Sue Mead, but authorities say taking a few minutes to review or create a plan could save lives in what is predicted to be a dangerous bushfire season. Nick Perpich, ABC News.
Residents of flood-ravaged far north Queensland may have little to give this festive season, but their Christmas spirit is far from dampened. Victims are rallying together, preparing meals and wrapping presents for those in need. But some communities in the region remain isolated with roads still cut.
Christmas cheer in the face of adversity. Flood-affected residents rallying together, lifting the spirits of those who've lost everything.
It's overwhelming. Helping people and being able to help back, receive help back is so good.
Just thought it would be maybe 50 or 100 gifts. It's something like 400. It's incredible.
I'm grateful that we could do this today.
A flood victim herself, Ria Holland, has organised hundreds of meals for others impacted in Cairns.
Such a great experience to be able to hand in hot meals to people, and as soon as they feel the warmth of the food, just start, crying, giving me a hug.
Some are still isolated, unable to leave their communities, with the Captain Cook Highway cut between Palm Cove and Port Douglas. The ABC spoke to Dave Donnelly, who's been trapped at Ellis Beach for 6 days.
We're feeling tired. I don't feel like it's Christmas, I can tell you that.
In Port Douglas, bottled water a welcome sight after pipes were damaged by flooding on Tuesday. The taps are expected to be turned on again tonight.
And we've had teams from all over the state here working with our crews as well to ensure that this is being fixed as quickly as possible. And I can guarantee you they've probably done about 3 weeks worth of work in a couple of days to get this done.
On the western side of the Cape, floodwaters are peaking in Kowanyama. The state government has pledged an additional $100,000 in immediate financial assistance for North Queenslanders. It's welcome news ahead of Christmas, but the fallout from this disaster will be felt long into the new year. Toby Loftus, ABC News, Cairns.
Police are asking witnesses to a fatal hit and run in Darwin's northern suburbs overnight to come forward. A pedestrian was struck on Bagot Road in Ludmilla around 9:40 last night near the pedestrian bridge. Emergency services declared a 30-year-old man dead at the scene. The vehicle did not stop to assist, but the alleged female driver has since turned herself in. 31 have now died on roads in the Northern Territory this year, despite police continuing their Christmas campaign for road safety. They're increasing roadside breath testing for drugs and alcohol and are cracking down on unregistered vehicles. It took a week, but finally the United Nations Security Council has agreed on a resolution on Gaza. The text was reworked, then watered down in intense negotiations aimed at winning support from the United States.
De resolución que figura en el documento.
13 votes in favour.
Abstenciones.
2 abstentions, but no vetoes. In the Security Council, that counts as a victory.
2 abstenciones.
After 5 days of bitter wrangling.
It took many days and many long nights of negotiating to get this right. But today, this council provided a glimmer of hope amongst a sea of unimaginable suffering.
The resolution demands aid be delivered at scale directly to the Palestinian people in Gaza, with the help of a UN-appointed coordinator. What it doesn't do is demand an immediate stop to the fighting, instead calling for the creation of conditions for a sustainable ceasefire, a compromise made to avoid a US veto, which the resolution sponsor eventually accepted.
Often, in diplomacy, the challenge is meeting the moment in the world we live in, not in the world that we want, and we will never tire in pushing for a full humanitarian ceasefire.
A humanitarian ceasefire is the only way to begin to meet the desperate needs of people in Gaza and end their ongoing nightmare.
UN Security Council resolutions are technically legally binding, but in practice difficult to enforce. Israel has already described the UN move as disconnected from reality. Hamas says it's insufficient.
On the ground, the offensive is intensifying.
Israeli forces continue the ground operation in Khan Yunis and at the same time preparing for the widening of the operation to additional areas in the Gaza Strip.
It's hard to see how, under those conditions, more aid will make it into Gaza, even if the one thing the world can agree on is how desperately it's needed. Barbara Miller, ABC News.
Police have released dramatic footage of them storming the university in Prague, where a student killed 14 people and then killed himself when officers surrounded him. It is the country's worst mass shooting and no motive is yet known.
From the fourth-floor balcony of Charles University, the 24-year-old gunman takes aim and fires. This Czech journalist witnessed the attack and attempted to distract the shooter mid-assault.
He was shooting towards the people. And that was the thing. I yelled at him to shoot in my direction so that the people could run somewhere safe.
Police arrived 4 minutes after the massacre began. Body camera footage shows special forces charging down hallways and searching classrooms that staff and students had barricaded themselves inside.
Put us on the floor, they searched everyone, and then with our hands up, we were just taken outside the building. As we were going down the stairs, I saw lots of blood on the stairs.
The lone shooter was surrounded by police 20 minutes after the first shot was fired.
Police were waiting for the moment when he became more or less encircled because he was using the balcony to hide from us. He got cornered and was only left with one weapon.
Police say the gunman killed his father before telling a friend he planned to kill himself. Authorities also linked him to the murders of a man and his 2-month-old daughter last week.
I don't want to speak about the number of weapons, but he had more than one, and he was really ready to kill much more people.
The Czech president and prime minister were among hundreds paying tribute to those killed. A national day of mourning has been declared and security increased at schools and public buildings until at least the new year. Michelle Rimmer, ABC News.
A simple finger prick could revolutionise global screening of type 1 diabetes. Scientists at the Royal Melbourne Hospital say they are the first to successfully trial the at-home test and say it holds the promise of a cheap and reliable way to test children for the chronic disease.
A quick prick and a few drops of blood is changing the world of diabetes.
The biggest problem with preventing type 1 diabetes is identifying the kids who are at risk.
100 Victorian children and young adults already tested for diabetes took part in a study using the finger prick test at home and sending it back to the hospital to test for type 1 diabetes antibodies. Victoria Pett has had the disease for 18 years and her daughters took part in the study.
Autoimmune conditions are so hard to detect, especially early on. They don't usually show up until you're full-blown symptoms.
While antibodies for type 1 diabetes can appear in children as young as 1, symptoms of the disease usually appear in adolescence.
The earlier you diagnose type 1 diabetes, the more pancreas function you have. If you wait, the immune system destroys the pancreas and it does not recover.
It's hoped early diagnosis using the test, coupled with immunotherapy, may save people from a lifetime of injecting insulin.
That's the last thing I want my kids to have.
A formal clinical trial will start in January and run for 2 years, with the expectation the FDA will approve it so that it can roll out as a national screening test for children. Rachel Clayton, ABC News, Melbourne.
With cost of living pressures biting this year, seafood suppliers are hoping demand will hold ahead of Christmas. Despite a challenging year for the industry, the Territory's biggest fish farm says it's had a record harvest and hopes new changes to seafood labelling will be a boost for the sector in years to come.
A busy time for Darwin's fish markets, brimming with Christmas cheer.
It's our busiest time of the year. Apart from Easter, Christmas definitely takes the cake. Prawns are flying out the door, oysters as well, and then we're selling quite a lot of our fresh local fillets, which has been good to see.
But with cost of living pressures this year, many are watching their budgets.
Even it's a big holiday, we try not overcook for anything. Yeah, I don't like waste food too.
We'll try to have a budget for the Christmas lunch and we'll try to save on things that we don't really need.
You gotta have good seafood at Chrissy. Ride your pushy to work, save some fuel.
Meanwhile, the Territory's biggest fish farm has had a record week.
We've just delivered our largest Christmas harvest ever. About 150 tonnes of fish has gone to, fresh fish has gone all around Australia. That's humpty do barramundi for people to put on their Christmas dinner.
A record years in the making for the family-owned business. Now the nation's biggest Australian-owned fish farm.
We started off at just 6 kilos fish a week, and now, this week 150,000 kilos. It's been a really big journey for us.
It caps off a challenging year for many seafood producers, with hopes federal changes flagged for country of origin labelling will support the local industry in years to come.
We believe that new labelling will assist in developing demand for Australian seafood. The Northern Territory was the first jurisdiction in Australia to introduce this legislation back in 2008, and the research at the time indicated that consumers bought more seafood all around.
But for now, it's time to stock up for Christmas and make the most of a record catch. Max Rowley, ABC News.
There's been an uprising in Taiwan this year with allegations of sexual misconduct reaching into nearly every part of society. As the Me Too wave swept the island, some of those allegations have resulted in real action, with apologies made at the highest levels of Taiwanese politics. But one of the most prominent people to come forward has been met with a defamation suit, and some are concerned this will limit the movement going forward. East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood filed this report.
Tina Zhou shot to fame as part of Taiwanese pop band Hey Girl. Key to her success was this man, Chen Qian-zhou.
This issue has been on my mind for many, many years.
Spurred on by Taiwan's Me Too movement, Ms Zhou went public with allegations of sexual misconduct, saying Mr Chun took advantage of his position and sexually harassed her on a business trip to Hong Kong in 2012.
Many people are afraid to speak up, and I thought that maybe my experience could inspire those who lack the courage to speak up for themselves.
Mr Chun denies the allegations and sued Ms Zhou for defamation. Taiwan's Me Too movement began thanks to a hit political drama called Wave Makers. It inspired one woman to speak out about her experience of alleged sexual harassment while working for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. The president issued an apology on behalf of the party and several senior staffers resigned. Taipei councillor Hong Wan-jin, also a member of the DPP, supported several women from the city's parks office who'd been sexually harassed by a security guard over several years.
They cried because they had sought help for months from various places, but nobody could properly assist them.
The security guard was later dismissed after an investigation by the council.
After a months-long process, this week the Taipei Prosecutor's Office decided not to pursue criminal defamation charges against Tina Zhou. But the legal process takes a toll, and some fear that even the threat of such action could have a chilling effect on those considering if they should come forward.
If Taiwan's Me Too movement stops at my case, then all the brave individuals, whether male or female, who came forward courageously before me, everyone will have lost.
But activists remain hopeful.
I think the Me Too movement lets each of these stories be seen, and it has a positive impact on Taiwan society as a whole, like a force moving forward.
A call for more people to find their voice. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Taipei.
It's that time of the year when Year 12 students find out their final grades and start planning their futures outside of school. But while those with top marks are celebrated, experts stress a person's ATAR isn't necessarily a measure of future success. Leah McLennan reports.
The results of years of hard work culminating in one final score.
Okay guys, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to open my 2023 ATAR.
On videos flooding social media, some graduates are celebrating their ATAR result. Others aren't as jubilant.
One of my friends got 96.05 and then the other friend got 99.15. I really am the dud of my friends.
Joining them on social media is Professor Braden Hill, a Deputy Vice-Chancellor at Edith Cowan University, who wants to let them know a bad ATAR isn't the end of the world.
But as someone who's been a teacher, academic, has multiple degrees, I got an ATAR of 55. But regardless of the ATAR that you get, there are multiple pathways to university, and there's not just one way.
But it's not all about getting into university.
And really underneath the floor of the car is all the batteries.
There are many industries that want students to know they're looking for people, and they don't need a degree.
You can pretty much start your job tomorrow. And also, you won't have that tens of thousands of dollars of potential debt that you may have if you do some other study.
Experts say there is still a bias towards university when it comes to career counselling in schools, with graduating students urged to keep in mind other options, like a traineeship or apprenticeship.
People have incredibly successful careers coming through apprenticeships or traineeships, and in fact, generally have a better head start in life, get to financial independence a lot quicker.
A message to keep in mind as graduates weigh up life outside the schoolyard. Leah McLennan, ABC News.
The federal government has made an emergency decision to move a quarter of Tasmania's wild red handfish population to a laboratory. The red handfish is critically endangered, with only 50 to 100 thought to be left in the wild in Tasmania's southeast. Scientists are concerned a marine heatwave predicted for this summer could wipe out the species. Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek has approved an emergency intervention to move 25 of the fish to a breeding facility in Hobart. Once the marine heatwave has passed, their habitat will be assessed to see if they can be returned. India is in a dominant position midway through the third day of the one-off test against Australia in Mumbai, holding a handy first innings lead. The hosts were bowled out early in the day before Australia dug deep to stay in the match.
After taking 3 quick wickets midway through day 2, Australia had hoped to rip through India and bat for a second time. But a 100-run 8th wicket partnership catapulted the home side into a dominant first innings position.
We toiled really hard, and I guess going into today we just need to be really consistent and I guess really boring with the lines and lengths that we're bowling. I think we were probably too wide or too full yesterday.
But after leaking early runs,
very well played,
the Aussies finally got a breakthrough.
Wicket finally for Annabel Sutherland.
Australia claiming the last 3 wickets inside an hour, but not before India passed 400 with a 187-run lead.
It's the short balls that have done the trick this morning.
After a disastrous start to the first innings, Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield looked far more settled at the crease.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But the pitch started to play up and the wickets started to fall. A momentary lapse in concentration costing Mooney, while Litchfield was undone by a poor shot choice. Elise Perry and Talia McGrath picked up the baton after lunch.
That's punched power in that stroke.
As Australia slowly reduced India's advantage. Tom Wildey, ABC News.
Pakistan's bowling stocks have been dealt another blow with spinner Noman Ali ruled out of the remainder of the series against Australia. Ali complained of a sudden abdominal pain yesterday and underwent surgery for appendicitis, but is expected to be discharged from hospital today. It comes after fast bowler Khurram Shahzad was also withdrawn from the series after suffering a stress fracture in his rib. Meanwhile, the Australian side spent the day enjoying the sunshine at the MCG while it lasts. Rain is expected for the second test, with the heaviest falls predicted before the match on Christmas Day. Wicketkeeper Alex Carey says the team's preparations for the Boxing Day test will remain the same regardless of Melbourne's weather forecast.
When Paddy wins or the toss or loses it, we'll go out to work and try to win that first hour of play. I think that's all we can do is focus really closely on our preparation, make sure the kids around the group's got all their Christmas presents and the parents are happy and gets enough sleep, and we'll be right.
The Cairns Taipans have moved to 5th place on the NBL ladder after defeating Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Sam Wardenberg made a big impact for Cairns, scoring 20 points. Teammate Patrick Miller was named player of the match, finishing with 17 points, 7 rebounds and 9 assists. The 94 points to 75 win ends the Taipans' losing run at home, while Southeast Melbourne slumped to a 3rd straight loss, now sitting 6th.
It was a hard-fought game. We came out with energy. I'm just glad we could put together some consistency. That's 2 in a row for us, finally. We just want to keep building off this. We know it's a long season, and it's going to be a tight race.
In the WNBL, the Sydney Flames have overcome the Bendigo Spirit 79-67 in their round 8 clash. Bendigo started strong, winning the first 2 quarters in Sydney to take an 8-point lead at half-time. The Flames took control after the break. Lauren Nicholson top scoring with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 steals. The Flames are now 5th on the ladder, 1 place ahead of the Spirit. Wellington Phoenix have cemented their top spot on the A-League's men's standings with a stoppage time win over the Western Sydney Wanderers in the Kiwi capital. Both halves were tightly contested, but a 91st minute thriller from veteran Costa Barbarosis put the Phoenix in front in time on. Barbarosis then set up teammate Ben Old to steal the game, a 2-0 win ensuring Wellington start 2024 at the top of the table. Last night, Adelaide United snapped a 3-match losing streak with a much-needed win over Newcastle at Hindmarsh Stadium. Trailing by a goal at half-time, the Jets looked threatening early in the second term, but the inclusion of the in-form Ben Holleran and Nestori Irukunda turned the tide for the Reds, scoring 2 goals in quick succession. A late goal from Justin Vidic was a consolation for Newcastle as they went down 3-1. Australia's freestyle skiing trailblazer Jakara Anthony is continuing to dominate at the World Cup, taking out a 4th consecutive win on the moguls overnight. The 25-year-old from Barwon Heads comfortably outscored her nearest competitors from Japan and the USA on the slopes in Georgia, extending her considerable lead in the single format moguls. The win is Anthony's 5th in just 20 days. It cements her status as a towering figure in the winter sports world following last season's disappointing championships where she failed to place.
It was pretty tough out there. Some of the girls were throwing down some big scores and some solid runs, so really had to be on my game, and pretty stoked to ski some runs that I was happy with and get some good training in, and yeah, come away with a win, a little better than last time we were here, so pretty happy with that.
The remote Indigenous community of Santa Teresa in the Northern Territory couldn't be further from the North Pole, but its residents have been busy decorating their homes for the annual Christmas lights competition. Now in its 23rd year, the competition sees locals go to great lengths to decorate their homes, illuminating the community under the dark desert skies.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in the Central Australian desert. An hour's drive southeast of Alice Springs, residents of Santa Teresa are finalising their displays for the popular annual Christmas lights competition.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
It's a labour of love that brings cheer to the whole community.
I'm just happy for the kids. They enjoy the lights.
Having won the competition previously, Desmond's Desert Wonderland is once again turning heads.
What do people say when they see the lights, the people around here? What do they say to you when they see it all?
Wow. Yeah. They just say, wow, look at the lights.
The displays are judged on their beauty, originality and arrangement, with a $500 cash prize for the outright winner.
It is very interesting, and people, they sort of compete with each other with the lights, and it's really beautiful at night.
Sometimes I try in the front, but I always lose. But there's a lot of energy that goes into a lot of people, and putting their designs up, on their houses.
Beneath the festive fervour lies a robust religious heritage, with the community first established as a Catholic mission in the 1950s.
Most of people here grow up being a Catholics, yeah. Even though there is less, I will say there is less participation in the church nowadays as used to be. But yeah, people still regard themselves and still remain as a Catholic. Yeah.
An event with a combined cultural heritage and a bright future. Xavier Martin, ABC News, Santa Teresa.
And now it's time for the weather, and tonight's viewer pick shows Santa coming to Darwin with this cloud formation. It was hot across most of the NT today, some isolated thunderstorms north of Daly Waters. It was 35 degrees in Darwin today, 36 in Batchelor. Looking further out, Catherine reached 39, 37 in Nhulunbuy and Borroloola 42. 42 degrees for Alice Springs, Uluru 44 and 41 for Tennant Creek. On the satellite, there's some isolated storms over the top end and a large area of storms in WA, which extends into the southwest of the NT. A trough is approaching the southwest of the territory, and an extensive area of low pressure covers much of the country. Interstate tomorrow, rain and 23 for Melbourne, 22 degrees for Canberra, Perth 36, 25 and showers and a possible storm for Sydney, and 31 degrees for Brisbane. Around the territory tomorrow, Alice Springs 37 degrees, 40 in Papunya and 43 degrees in Elliot. To the north, possible storm and 40 in Catherine, 34 in Galawinku and a top of 43 degrees in Borroloola. And in the west, 38 in Jabiru and a possible storm and a top of 35 degrees in Darwin tomorrow. A heatwave warning is in place with parts of the north of the NT potentially seeing extreme heatwave conditions, while severe conditions remain over parts of the north and centre of the NT. There'll be a low tide tomorrow morning at 9:17 and a high at 3:45 in the afternoon. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:19 and set at 12 minutes past 7. And looking ahead for Darwin, possible storms, but very humid and hot days and nights over coming days, and chances of rain will become more likely towards the tail end of next week. For Alice Springs, there's a low chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon tomorrow, some reprieve as well with a cool change on Christmas Day, but temperatures are expected to get hotter from Tuesday. And And that's ABC News for this Saturday night. Thank you for your company and good night.